Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by my buddy Myron.
I am as spry as I ever am today. We have been a lot of time preparing this show for you. We started out as a WrestleMania-centric show, but independent wrestling and wrestling all over the world has given us so much to talk about. I have finished this giant cup of coffee, and I'm now about to open this giant Diet Coke in order to stay awake through this.
And I'm drinking water.
Nick is not as caffeine dependent as I am, so we will be joining our captain as we fly through this. He will be guiding us on this show, and I will be here to provide curse words and anger. Let's go, Captain. Where are we going first?
Well, first, we're going to direct everybody to our favorite home, Myron, over on YouTube, youtube.com. Look, just search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, Tapped Out Podcast Network, and if you're familiar with how the handles work over there on YouTube, we're just at Tapped Out Pod, of course, like everything. Lots of cool stuff there. You do get the show early, so like if you were a YouTube member, behind the paywall there, because you don't just like the page, you don't just subscribe, you turn on your notifications, and hell, you become a member, and that will actually get you the show early. So you would have actually gotten to listen to it Sunday afternoon instead of Monday. You get it a day early. But also, I think we've discussed, we are going to take a show from our friends. You were talking about independent wrestling. I think we're going to do a watch-along of a Southern Fried show. They just crushed it.
Dude,
the Monroe Massacre.
Yes.
They crushed it. Had a big show. Look, we had a birthday party. That's why we didn't get to go. That was this past weekend, not this weekend, past one. We had a birthday party for a friend, so we couldn't go. And they killed it. What, it was 500 people?
Yes. Yes.
So,
I had everything set up to go, and my daughter entered herself into a marketing competition at her school and finished second among the entire school. I'm very proud of her. However, she should have been able to drive me to a wrestling program.
I agree. That is no excuse.
Yes. I miss the ability to drive. Many things have been taken away from me during my time of illness, but I will get back to this eventually.
Yeah.
So, Nick, what do we have in store besides talk of independent wrestling?
Well, we're going to tell you.
Is there a big event coming up?
There is. And listen, Myron, look, WrestleMania is coming up. It's this coming up weekend. Do fast forward. Before we dive into it, though, we're going to tease a little bit about, we're going to kind of like, now that the card's kind of set for the most part, I think and by the way, they have announced who's going to open the show on Saturday night.
Very pleased with that.
But we're going to share that in a minute. Listen, it's 2 days.
Somebody I saw at Southern Fried one time.
Yeah, it's 2 days. You're going to need all kinds of energy. You're going to be fired up. You're going to be juiced up. And if you need to do that, we strongly recommend our friend over athleticgreens.com.
You're going to need a smaller cabinet because now you can take all those supplements you're taking or not taking and replace them with this. AG1 by Athletic Greens brings 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens together in one place. It might just be the most comprehensive and convenient nutritional regimen on the planet. Immunity supporting, recovery enhancing, digestion improving, energy lifting. Made to the strictest quality standards. Made New Zealand. Made for just about everybody.
That's right, man. If you're trying to eat keto, paleo, whatever diet you're on, you're looking to get that energy up. You're looking to, it tastes good. One drink in the morning, just make it up, bam, crush it. You'll love it. Athletic Greens, man.
I cannot speak highly enough of them. Wonderful product. I started it. I was so constipated, I almost became a wrestling critic. But now I'm feeling much better.
That's right, man. And speaking of critics, let's go ahead and dive in because we all know WrestleMania season. I call it WrestleMania season because everybody's mean. Why you gotta be so mean? Listen, we talked about it a little bit before we went to the ads and to the sponsors. They announced basically, look, we clearly know night 2 will be main evented Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. So you got your end cap there on the second night. Now they announced that Austin Theory will face John Cena to open the show on Saturday night. with such a high-profile match opening the card. Here's my thing, by the way. Somebody once said, if you're not main eventing, you want to open the show.
Oh. Both ends of that sausage are tasty.
So let me ask you this, and ask everybody listening. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. What would your thoughts be? My take is, look, we kind of addressed this a little bit last week. I would say you end night one with Sami and Kevin Owens versus the Usos for the tag straps, right? That'll be your end cap for night one. Everybody's always pushing back. Charlotte and Rhea, they should be open. Charlotte and Rhea could open night two and be the Theory Cena match, from night one on night two, and set the table like boom, because they could still go out there. I think it's gonna be a hard hitting match. I think they're gonna put each other through it, man. I think they're gonna push the limits big time. I think
or do we have an Uso appetizer for night two? Do we build the tension that is going to be the Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes match? Do we get a promo in? Do we get a run in? Do we find some Solo Sikoa? Now, Nick, that promo at the end of Raw was so intense that when the Chrisley Knows Best song came on, I was relieved. I was so tense, so emotional when he kicked Solo. I have to find out where he has his pants made. Because to be able to kick and lift your leg up so high in a pair of dress pants, Lord, he must have a very flexible crotch. If they could make those in large men's sizes,
that's the problem. I don't think they do. That's the problem.
Well, I will look forward to it. I will ask our friend QT Marshall if he knows where Cody has his pants made. But he tells Solo he's not ready, and Roman restrains him. I was so tense. And then that Chrisley's voice came through the television, and I was relaxed. Nick, it needs to be the opening match on night two.
So you think it should be Usos, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn opening night two. So you bookmark night two with the Bloodline storylines.
With the Solo variable. Because, we got Solo Monday night. By the time most people hear this podcast, they will be listening, and then later that evening will be the Cody Rhodes Solo match. The last live, real pre-WrestleMania show. Because Friday night's going to be part of WrestleMania, in my opinion.
I could see that argument.
Pre-show.
Yeah.
So what do we see, Nick? How are we going to do it? What are you booking?
I still think the reason you go night one main event is the tag team match, which would be weird because I can't even imagine that's ever happened, like in a main event slot, like a tag match like that for the tag team side on a WrestleMania. And the only reason I say that is I do think, but I like those four matches. Are those four matches your four bookends? The other argument could be, because you can't, look, we addressed this on the other, some of the we talked beforehand. You're not going to, main event Hell in a Cell on night two, are you? Night one. Sorry, night one. Yeah.
Because you're going to have that hanging. That's going to have to be hanging.
Or is that your night two opening match? So that way it's already down. So all you have to do is when that match is over, you lift it up, and then it hangs.
You're going to have to follow.
Well, and then what if at the end of night two, somehow the Hell in a Cell comes down in the main event with Cody?
You have to realize following Hell in a Cell is not easy.
No.
Cody could. But
you're going to be hours
later.
We're
forgetting all about Seth and Logan Paul. That's no small match. Logan Paul is not a small deal.
Yeah, but I don't think they main event.
Oh, I don't know, Nick. I don't know. This Logan Paul guy is big time. This Logan Paul is crossing over once again. This Logan Paul is elevating Seth Rollins. This guy, he is no longer just Becky's husband. He gets bigger every time he gets in the ring with Logan Paul. Logan Paul is on his podcast, on all of his shows, talking about Seth Rollins. crossing over. People that watch and listen to him are going to want to watch WrestleMania to see what Logan Paul does. You want to disappoint them by sticking it in the middle of night one?
No, I'm not saying it's night one. It could be night two. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I don't think I don't think it main events anywhere. You've already, like I said, I think clearly night two is completely Roman Cody. Night one, we've announced the opening. You've only got 2 slots as far as like your main event and your open of night two. Who falls where? Night one main event, night two opening. I could honestly see opening night two with a Hell in a Cell. I could. I'm not saying I would. Yeah. I'd love, look, and this, don't get me started on the commentary early, right? Where I'm saying like it's all up for debate and everybody could make their case for what goes where. But following the logic, if you're not main eventing, you'd rather open the show. Everybody keeps coming back to Rhea versus Charlotte as the main event of night one. I don't think there's anything bigger in WWE right now than Bloodline, and I think it's justifiably main events of both nights, like the 2-part story.
It could be, because you got to realize these are the undisputed tag belts. These are not one of 2 tag belts.
Right.
These are both tag belts, and these are both championship belts. So it's a bigger deal than the normal tag belts. We have both of the women's tag belts now. They're just one tag belt. Am I correct?
It's just a tag belt.
Those are going to be contested. Both individual women's belts are going to be contested. We've got the storyline with the Mysterios. They're going to have to fit in there. The Brock and Omos story, we have to fit in there. And we have to do the entire, what's the last one?
Well, you've got the tag. You got that triple threat, that Gunther, Sheamus, Drew thing.
For the Intercontinental title.
And then you've got the little tag scramble thing, not scramble, but that big 4 tag teams that they're doing. I mean, look, I get it, and I find it. A lot of people are pushing back and saying like, "Oh, it's just a 1-match, 2-match." I completely disagree, because I think you're disrespecting the Asuka Bianca match, Charlotte, Rhea match. Like to me, it is a big deal, and I get it. Some people are saying it's lost in the shuffle, the Mysterio, drama or whatever. Like I totally get that. You're gonna get a Hell in a Cell match, by the way, Myron. To your delight, it's a Hell in a Cell match, not a pay-per-view.
Yes. I've always said these are match types, not pay-per-views.
Yeah.
You take a match and you don't make a pay-per-view out of it. Hell in a Cell is a match type, like a chain match or a dog collar match. You don't have a pay-per-view called dog collar. The one match, the Royal Rumble, is a pay-per-view in itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, in all fairness, the reason why is because that damn match is like an hour long.
Yes, and it is to decide the number 1 contender. And it sets up WrestleMania. Okay? It's a big, big deal. It's one of the big 4. I love it as just one thing. So let's delight me that it's there. If I were to Meltzerize this and work it all out, you have a plethora of matches that could main event small pay-per-views all throughout the year when you think about it.
Sure.
That whole Mysterio thing could be a main event on a smaller pay-per-view. Okay? The Brock Omos thing could be a main event on a smaller pay-per-view. You might have a 5-star main event on the WrestleMania. You've got a bunch of 4- and 3-star matches all throughout the rest of the card. You've got stuff you're going to want to see. How they work them in is going to be a big deal. It's going to be the mystery on how this all goes down.
Yeah. I would love to, like I said, I would really love to know like how people are going to, like, what order would you put them in? Just a curiosity. And look, I'm not asking you to give us every single one of them, right? I mean, something simple as just what are the 4? Bookend night 1, bookend night 2. We've shared our thoughts, what we think they should be. Look, but again, it's all personal preference, and so be it. So now, do you have any other WWE stuff? Because I'm ready to dive into this other thing that we talked about a little bit.
There's a lot of other things we talked about. We did a 2-hour preparation of the show, and 30 minutes of that was technical difficulties. I give you that. I had some technical difficulties. I'll own up to it. The rest was just difficulties on things. And I don't know when we're going to get in the part about oh God, that was painful. I think you want to start with AEW first.
Yes, I do. I do want to start there because I think it segues into
I
the other thing.
in a long time, I have not forced myself to watch the entire AEW, but everyone on the internet said the Vikingo Kenny Omega match was wonderful. And so I decided I would go through and watch the entire show and see what I thought. I turned the show on, and there was an old man and a bunch of 150-pound guys. And for a minute, I thought I was at a bad indie show. Okay. Bad joke. But Sting and a bunch of small guys. It was good. It was good, but sometimes we're booking things there I don't get. But then I don't watch it all day long. I'm not a Flippy. I'm not Jim Cornette, but I'm not a Flippy fan. I did enjoy the short build up. What they did do to build up the match with Vikingo and Kenny Omega, they did a short build up, but it was decent. I learned who Vikingo was and what he was doing. I learned his name means son of the Viking, who was his dad was a wrestler. He was a very impressive luchador. Lucha is not my favorite style. Him and Omega did a very good job putting on a very good lucha style, or I don't know what style you call what Kenny Omega does, but it was a very entertaining match.
I agree.
But at the end, when Hangman Page ran out to the ring with his board to stop whatever was going on, and Don Callis faked Hangman Page hitting with the board, so Kenny Omega thought Hangman Page hit Don Callis. I found myself much more emotionally invested in that bit, that sports entertainment, that manager is a heel bit, than I was the rest of it. And that was my style of wrestling there.
Okay.
That was my style of sports entertainment. That's what I identified with.
That would be Myron opening the door for me to go down.
The forbidden door.
No, for
Nick's
me to
forbidden
walk
door.
through. So I posted an article that addressed something Bully Ray said on Busted Open. And basically it was like, he didn't, and I'm paraphrasing, don't butcher me here. I have it. Essentially, he's like, when I think of a pro wrestler, I think of Randy Orton. When I think of pro wrestling, I don't think of Kenny Omega. Now Nick's interpretation of what he said. Kenny Omega, what he does, he doesn't see it as pro wrestling. He sees it, and I'm guessing he probably sees it more exhibition, more, performance, which is, by the way, not a bad thing, folks. So don't overreact. I even put it in there, by the way, in the header, like, before you react, please read the article. Because I knew read the entire article, because I knew people were just going to like bloom and go into overreaction. Essentially, as I explained to Myron before we recorded, I said, listen, I understand that match wasn't for everybody. It was a spot fest. We've talked about this with the Bucks in the past. They're spot fest matches, right? Some people push back and say, that's not wrestling. That's not wrestling. And I always, I had to come to grips with something to myself. And it was, and I've expressed it to you, Myron, like very adamantly, I've said it to you, correct? Mm-hmm. I've said, at some point, we all became, by the way, this commentary was going to be a separate commentary I was going to cut this week. And then there's something that happened that completely, I can't do it. I'll explain why. We're getting there, folks. Teaser. Yes, something broke on the internet. It was all over Twitter. Huck was commenting on it, and whatever.
That is William Huckabee, for you people
yes.
not familiar with the Southern independent wrestling scene.
So
quite a man who is very well spoken, a man who knows wrestling, and a lovely man to talk to, lovely man to talk to about many subjects.
But will express his opinion about wrestling.
Will express his opinion,
Sure.
and also I think could probably smash most people in the mouth more than adequately if he needed to.
So back to the point where I said my commentary originally was, okay, like it or not, it's all personal preferences. By the way, Kitchens also, James Caleb Kitchens commented, and I was like, this is where I was going with this. Essentially, my take is, I think there are flavors of wrestling. And everybody likes to think their flavor is correct.
Yes.
Like, this is what pro wrestling is, and then they say it. And I was kind of, had to learn a long time ago. And honestly, it might have been the Young Bucks who were the beginning of this process for me, where I could look at them and go, they're not for me, but that's probably, I don't like it, but it's probably not for me. And I'm not saying they've never done anything that I didn't enjoy, but for the majority, what they do isn't my cup of tea. And that's okay, by the way.
Yes.
What Kenny does for a lot of people is not their cup of tea. Ask Jim Cornette. He'll tell you. He doesn't like what Kenny Omega does. But then there's a crowd who what John Cena does is not their cup of tea, and they crap all over it. Oh, and by the way, they're right too. Just so we got to throw that in there. They're 100% correct. What Roman's doing, they don't like. What anything WWE, then it exponentially expands out into its companies. AEW sucks. WWE's the best. AEW's the best. WWE sucks. And by the way, their opinion's the only opinion that matters. So
WCW was right.
WCW was right. ECW, blah, 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 blah. Insert it on. I was literally going to push, look, almost everything has a place. Just know just accept it for what it is. Should I give the Portnoy comparison that I used? I'm like,
It's a very good comparison because I like pizza.
There you go. So we're going to compare it to pizza. I am a big fan of Dave Portnoy as far as his pizza reviews go. When he walks out of a restaurant and he says, "Hey, one bite, everybody knows the rules," he's going to do his pizza review. What I tell people, what I do enjoy about it is when he opens a box and it's a Neapolitan style pizza, I already know he's not a fan of that type of pizza. So take that score into account, knowing that it's starting off at a disadvantage. And there's certain kind of pizzas that he enjoys that, okay, that score should be higher as long as they do it pretty good because that's his flavor. I kind of made the analogy when Dave Meltzer reviews something from AEW, I'm already aware that's his kind of pizza. The star rating thing is going to get a sliding scale. WWE's not his thing. So if he gives WWE a 4-star match versus a 5-star match, I go, okay, that match was better than he's going to give it credit for because that's not his cup of tea. But if it's my favorite kind of pizza, I would like it more.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind, by the way. So I'm always like everybody has a flavor. Everybody, that's why Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, Reverend Dan and Tank and Nathan Myron. Those are 3 gentlemen I like and respect. And if I were to go into wrestling Baskin Robbins with those 3 gentlemen, while I might go over here and have myself a scoop of Cena, they would go to the other end and have themselves a scoop of death match, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
Would we all get something we liked and walk out? Yes.
Yeah. We
probably all would be happy with our choices. But apparently you have found something that they shouldn't serve on the 31 flavor. You have found the 32nd flavor.
Correct. Now, Kitchens, totally agree with his analogy on this thing. XPW does a show, and on Twitter the video's released. I sent it to you. You couldn't open it, so I subjected you to sharing it via video, Facebook video, and made you watch it.
Yes.
Kitchen's analogy about and that's goes back to the Baskin Robbins 31 flavors analogy. That would be like, this video of what they did would be equivalent to them putting rocks in the 30-second bucket at Baskin Robbins and saying, somebody's going to like that ice cream. What we're talking about, I'm not even going to, I shouldn't have acknowledged the promotion's name at this point in hindsight, the more I think about it, because I don't even want to promote it. I won't say the two guys' names that were in the match. They literally stuck a syringe in one of the guys' penis. Videoed it, by the way. They pulled his pants down, and I mean literally exposed himself to a crowd. I don't care, by the way, I don't care how hardcore, no pun intended, of a crowd that is. I'm not okay with that.
Now, I have to opine on this one. While I have limited knowledge of professional wrestling, I am not only a very experienced professional immunizer, I also have a penis that I've used throughout the years. I have given thousands of vaccinations through a very long career in the medical business. That was dangerous. The male anatomy is incredibly vascularized and works much like a balloon. And had he hit the wrong thing, that man could have bled out. That was a very large needle. That was at least a 5cc syringe. And they don't put little bitty tiny needles on syringes that size.
Right.
That was incredibly dangerous. And that man could have, at best, had his penis amputated.
So here's the thing.
It's one to get hit with a light tube.
You're coming at it from a medical standpoint. I'm coming at it from a, like somebody, and it was funny, I messaged somebody, and they were like, oh, but you didn't have a problem when Ric Flair's butt got exposed when they pulled his pants down, in matches. And I'm like, I never said I liked that either. So don't go under that assumption. But the frontal completely just went too far from me, just from a taste standpoint. It should probably, look, argue it all you want. I just don't think it had a place. This isn't even hot take. This isn't even, it's just my opinion. But if anybody disagrees, you can let us know at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Oh, it has its place. Where? Like, look, you could even argue me, oh, it was at a bar show where everybody was 21. I don't give a shit. It didn't belong in wrestling. I don't necessarily like getting into that debate. But that's just my take.
Well, the punk rock musician Gigi Allen used to smear himself with his own feces and run around during shows. I don't consider that music. That was some kind of performance he did. I don't consider this wrestling. I consider this genital, the word I'm looking for, Nick.
Mutilation, maybe? I don't know.
Mutilation, thank you. This goddamn seizure medicine has made me forget things at times. But what I'm trying to say is, this is not professional wrestling. This is sticking a needle in your dick.
Yeah.
And I think Dusty Rhodes, putting this in the same category as Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret the Hitman Hart, and putting this into the same category as an hour-long Broadway back in the old days, is unfitting. And I just don't think it works.
But what do we know?
We've gone too far.
I do. I think that's enough. I think that's officially the first time, for record, I'm like, we've gone too far.
And I'm going to ask Nathan, and if I see Tank at a show, I'm going to ask him, what do you think about this?
All right.
And I have a feeling I might know the answer.
We're going to find out. That's for sure. We'll ask somebody because, let us know what's your thoughts on it. It did go too far in our opinion, but what do we know, right? We're just fans. And look,
I'm just some guy in a chair.
I'm just saying, we're just fans. We openly admit that. But I would love to know what your thoughts were. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Share those thoughts and kind of go on from there. Look,
let's go back to positive now.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
we switch the subject?
Sure.
My favorite thing about the entire AEW show was QT TV. That program needs more QT Marshall and less everything else. That man is brilliant. And I hope one day more people recognize that.
By the way, if you're not following him on Twitter, that is some of the most entertaining shit that's being paired with that. If you have,
it's
so
hard for
funny.
me to watch Twitter because that's where you found that picture of a man.
Okay, someone sent me that. Like well, let me back up. Somebody told me to go find it. They told me where to find it. And
if you ever send me anything like that, you're not my friend. You send it to me for this show.
Correct.
Professionally.
They sent it to me for the show. They sent it to me for the show.
Don't send it to me. I don't need that kind of shit.
I browsed.
Speaking of QT Marshall, yeah. I have to give mad shout outs to Brandon and Gerald, the commentators from Southern Honor, two of the greatest guys you'll ever want to meet. They got to be part of the Nightmare Factory student exhibit at, help me with words, Nick.
The district.
At the district nightclub.
They did a student showcase. That's what it's called. Yeah.
Yes. Two guys could not have deserved it more. I could not be prouder of those two.
Yeah.
Associating themselves with professional wrestlers. That's Cody Rhodes in that picture with them. That's Billy Gunn in that picture with them. Who was it you saw down there at the Nightmare Factory the other day?
Well, Sheamus was down there, I believe, this past week. Cena was there the week before. Kind of a to-go place. I mean, I keep telling everybody, like, it'd be kind of cool if you were there, right?
Yeah.
You might learn from some really talented guys. The two guys that own the place are super talented, which kind of comes back to your AEW point. Like the Will Hobbs, I think there's a lot to be done there. And listen, I don't want to cause anything. I know he's utilized behind the scenes, but I agree with you. The QT Marshall needs more stuff in front of the camera.
Yes,
I think it can be effectively used in a good way in front of the camera as well. But that's just my opinion. Again, tappedpod@gmail.com if you disagree. But I do agree. Congrats to Brandon and Gerard doing a great job there. I kind of go ahead.
And I promise I will try to figure out more about AEW in the future. I will try. It is a substantial portion of wrestling. I do not want to be so WBE fixated. That's all I talk about. I really want to understand more about AEW, but it is so different than what I'm used to, Nick.
I know it sounds crazy. I genuinely enjoy the product. I will sit there and watch. I do. But I think it's like all wrestling, and I keep coming back to this, and I sound like a broken record at times, and I apologize for that. But I think it's just got to be wrestling in general these days. There's so much of it that you just kind of have to take it for what it is. And when you're watching it, if the segment comes on, listen, Jeff Jarrett made me enjoy an Orange Cassidy match. That was a couple weeks, but I mean, I'm saying it's a while back. And, so it can be done. I mean, it's not like there's things that I don't like on both companies' shows, WWE, AEW, both. I've just learned that, dude, I can turn the channel and just not bitch about it. I just wish more people could.
If you don't like it, you just change the channel.
Correct.
You do not write an extensive treatise on the internet about why you don't like it.
Yeah. And in the grand scheme of things, it's going to shit on us, by the way. I love nothing more lately than being the Bill Burr of wrestling podcast. I'm going to shit on everybody, and I'm included in it. So basically, I'm shitting on myself or something. Here's my odd take. I have to watch it because I got to go on Twitter or Facebook and bitch about it. Not really. You don't have to. I get it, you're going to, but you don't have to. And I will just turn it. And if I got to come back, I'm trying to be as positive as I possibly can, and that's where my thing is. All right, this segment's already, not my cup of tea. Boop, flip it and jump
Hold
around.
on. I've got to get my ball and chain out, Nick. I've got to get out my ball and chain. Where's it at? Oh,
I'm just waiting for
it's
the
a remote
rest.
control. It's a remote control that I am chained to, where I have to hold that remote control and tune in every single wrestling program on earth and force myself to watch it so I can complain about it and then highlight the thing. No, we don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to watch everything. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Right.
If you don't want, if you're going to complain about an indie show or an indie wrestler, if you do not like a particular indie wrestler, don't watch their matches. Go take a leak during their show, their match. Go
Full
get
disclosure,
a candy
I
bar.
probably will never at this point again. You will never catch me. You couldn't convince me to search out that wrestling promotion again.
No. Ian Rotten never will watch anything he does. Okay? That's another one I don't like. Won't complain about Ian Rotten.
Yeah.
Won't watch Ian Rotten. Okay? There are indie promotions I don't want any part of. There are national promotions I don't want any part of. Don't care. Not going to run them down. Don't have the energy. Okay?
Too many good things. Too many good things to focus on.
I'm 50 years old. I'm in the latter part of my life. I'm not going to waste my time on being negative. Okay? I got other things to be negative about besides professional wrestling.
Yeah. So that all being said, Myron, let's move into some positive.
I'm not a dick like CM Punk.
See, I don't know, man. We can go back and forth. You can make this argument both ways. I've grown. Look, by the way, I've always had my stance on. I think he's overrated, but that doesn't mean. But that's my opinion. It doesn't mean much. But that take that was posted online, I was kind of like, what was really wrong with it? Let me know at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. But let's swerve right over into the positive.
Let's talk about something we do love.
We talked a little bit about Southern Fried earlier. Monroe Massacre, they 500, big crowd. We're going to make sure you're subscribed.
I really, really want to hope. I know we have listeners all over the world. And I know we speak centrically about Georgia independent wrestling. I hope wherever you are, your independent wrestling is just as good as it is here in Georgia. Because we are blessed with a lovely amount of independent wrestling. Wonderful independent wrestling. Some of the best in the world, in my opinion. I hope it is great wherever you are. And you take advantage of it. Instead of watching wrestling on TV, you complain about, you get in your car and drive to an independent show and spend $10, $15, and you buy yourself a Coke and you sit. And if somebody's selling pictures, you get an autograph. I've got stacks of pictures I haven't even got in a frame and got on the wall yet because I don't have room for them. Okay? Because I support these people. There's a guy always selling action figures. Just get out there and have fun. See your friends. I have made such a great group of friends. Okay? We sell shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees. Nick Halen, a friend of ours, sells shirts on. If you go to Pro Wrestling Tees and put in Nick Halen, okay, he has some of the best looking shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees there are. His shirts look better than some of the guys, the professional wrestlers on some AEW and some of the bigger shows. Look at that. Look at our stuff. Wonderful stuff. Pick yourself an independent wrestler shirt. Enjoy it.
And always pay attention, by the way, when we're talking about guys, check them out. If they're on Pro Wrestling Tees, Store Frontier, they're all over. Like, I try when we talk, when we do the matches and stuff, I try to put them in there, links to their stuff. And anyway,
you know who I'm high on, Nick? You know who I'm high on right now?
Who you high on, Myron?
I'm high on a manager. I'm high on somebody who is part of JBE. Somebody who, to me, the greatest independent wrestling manager since Jim McCornett, the great Joseph Brock III. Okay, has taken a pupil, Tristan Michaels, and I see Tristan is working shows all over the place now.
Mm-hmm.
He has got great gear. He is managing great wrestlers and doing a wonderful job. Tristan Michaels, to me, is the best upcoming wrestling manager in Georgia now. I think people, if you go to a show to see a wrestling manager, I think he's worth it. Just to see him, go to a show to see him as a manager.
I think the things are that he knows so much about the wrestling business, being, what's the word I'm looking for? Like because he's been in the business for so long, he knows kind of those things, a lot about the wrestling business. He's being very smart about who he's associating with in a lot of promotions. He's Hunter James, male performer of the year, some things like that. On and on and on. I think there's by the way, he's everywhere. It's like, it's not just in one place, but he's working in some big promotions. He's working in small promotions. So he's getting out there and hitting the road. I think, again, especially with the talents that are being, listen, I look, when you're a manager, the key is to surrounding yourself with some good talents. It's not it's not just your performance. You could be a great manager, but if the people that you're managing aren't any good, it's kind of hard to get traction. I think that's
Bobby Heenan.
Look, I just think that the people he's surrounding himself with, I think, are going to open up a lot of doors and get that out there as far as more places to work. We had this conversation and we both were like, it's March, slow down, but we're already kind of like potential manager of the year, right? Like,
yes,
because if the traction's there for the whole year, start watching out. Tristan Michaels might slide under the radar and become your manager of the year.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I see things happening for him, good things this year. And to keep on with this, apparently GCW had a great show last night. A great amount of turnout. The crowds are picking up. Slim J, Ring of Honor favorite, a guy that is working AEW tag team AEW shows, is wrestling in Georgia again. Last weekend, Sunday, we were free. Okay, folks. And we made it up to a GCW show. And I had the honor of going along with Nick's two 18-year-old twin grandsons. And Nick, please give me some feedback on what those boys thought of that show.
So, look, they're 8 years old. It was kind of what I figured it would be. It was their first show they ever went to. So we picked them up. It was, how far was it? About 25 minutes from the house. Colbert. Yeah. Learn things along the way. How can I say? They loved the show. They obviously, you heard, they were super into it. They were the thing about what I truly enjoyed about taking them was it was something that I wanted to do better at myself. Try to watch wrestling through the eyes of a child more than your smart eyes. You're listening with your smart brain. They were cheering guys who, and listen, this is not an insult to anybody. The guys that we are told are not the best wrestlers. They got behind them and they're cheering them. Why? Because it was the good guy. How long did it take them to understand the good guy and the bad guy? There was one match that one of them leaned over to me and said, "Who's the good guy?" Because they couldn't quite tell yet because they hadn't got far enough in the interaction. And so I told them, and then bam, they were off. That's all they needed to know. They didn't need to know. Not once did either one of them lean over, "Hey, Grandpa, who's the best wrestler who's the best wrestler in this company?" I didn't get that at all. I mean, I'm not even trying to be funny. They legit didn't. It was literally who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Sometimes it was obvious. They come out and they start, trash talking the fans or whatever. They already figured it out, and they're 8.
That was a poor execution of that 360 Hurricane Rana.
Yeah, at no point did they go, well, that was, well, he didn't properly, do that hip toss. It was like, and I was like, dude, that was so enjoyable, in my opinion, to be
Yeah,
able to do that.
They were yelling, "Somebody sucks! Somebody sucks!" It was awesome.
Yeah.
The only in the past I have watched Azrael and Crystal's son. He is an absolute joy to watch at wrestling shows because he gets into it so much. And but your grandsons at their first wrestling, and I remember parts of my first wrestling show. Sir, I can't remember where I parked my car in my own driveway, but I remember parts of my first wrestling show. And hopefully those boys didn't try any holes on each other.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Good.
I have to tell you a story off air, though. I can't repeat it on air, but about something that did happen. But it was not related to wrestling at all.
That's good.
One of the matches that happened on that, you discussed it. Like we should consider doing the Curtis Coleman Slim J match that happened. So we did leave because, by the way, shout out to Ted and the Max. They taught me a valuable lesson about when we took my grandsons. I told you before we got there. I said, hey, listen, this isn't going to be a work like a podcast like wrestling show. This is for them. And when they're ready to go, like Ted taught me this with Max. When Max is ready to go, Ted's like, we go. There's no point in trying to push them through that wall and make them stay. And, he's like, when they're ready, go. Now I've learned just go a little bit later because we got there early because it was limited seating and, we were worried about getting, a spot for all of us. Now I'll take the risk. And it's funny. I should have learned this from Ted. Ted walks in right at showtime.
With his own seats.
That's a different story. But yes, point being, when the grandsons go, if bell time's at 7, we walk in at 6:59. Because that, think about it. The hour we lost was when we got there early.
Yes.
By the way, the favorite thing for the whole show, Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew, and the it was the food.
Well, we typically get to shows early to socialize.
Correct.
Because it's a very social thing for us. We know most of the wrestlers. We know a lot of the fans. We talk to people. We go back and forth. We talk to the promoter. We talk to the referees. We talk to the security guards. We just wander around, just socializing and talking to people. And we talk to the guy that does the announcing. We talk to the guys that run the cameras. It's just fun, And the 8-year-olds were not into that, and I don't blame them. But they had I can tell they had a positive experience with Grandpa. And I just sat and watched them as much as I watched the wrestling. And I was happy. I didn't care. I didn't care about anything I didn't break a damn thing down. I didn't care about, not saying those wrestlers were very skilled wrestlers. I've watched many of them at other promotions. It was just, I could care less. All I cared about was seeing people happy. And those boys were very happy and enjoyed the show. And if you are right, if more people just went there to enjoy the show and relaxed and quit being jerks, your money would be worth it.
When you're at a show and you're starting to complain and you're starting to bitch and complain about something, find the kid that's near you watching it and just watch them for about 30 seconds.
And if that don't work, get your ass up and leave. Go home.
That's positive. Yeah.
Go home and go to bed.
That's where you should be because you're a grumpy old man at that point, even if you're in your 20s. Anywho, yeah, check it out, man. I 100% tell you, look, there's going to be more commentaries like this over on our YouTube channel. I'm going to start. I've been trying to cut these in the car, but I've been working so much, it's been tough to do. YouTube.com.
And I don't drive anymore.
Yeah. But make sure you're subscribing, liking it, turning notifications on, get the show early, all that extra stuff. Podcast, look, I've thought about maybe dropping some of that audio when I do these on the audio feeds as well. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, that kind of stuff. Make sure you're giving us a 5-star rating review if you so inclined. We would appreciate it because we know everybody's not a YouTube watcher. We got a lot of people that are doing it over on the podcast platforms as well.
Yes.
And look, we appreciate that as well. So I thought about, like, do I release some of the commentaries and then, like, a week later or something, release it on the podcast feed or something as well. So that way it's shared in multiple places. So anyways, it was a lot of stuff this week. Look, Mania's coming up this weekend. We talked about maybe doing a prediction show. I don't know, dude. I'm loaded up with appointments. We're going to find out. So we'll see. Lots of miles on the car this week. So we'll see if I can get, and the problem is sometimes my daughter's an agent. She's in the car with me. So it's kind of hard to cut videos if she's sitting there. Like, it'd probably be
she spoke. My girlfriend is a very close friend of your daughter. They had a talk the other night, and I think your daughter is doing an excellent job at being a human being right now, and she's doing a wonderful job as being an insurance agent, is she not?
She is. She's off to a good start. So we'll see how you got to keep it up, but she's doing great, and so she's gonna have a break here in a while, but we'll see.
Yes.
But yeah, man. So we'll see. Get this extra stuff. My challenge to Myron on air: cut a couple videos during the week when you're down there.
Yes, I will try to. I will
even
try
if
to.
Even if it's just commentary on something that you saw on Raw or Smackdown or AEW.
Yes. Well, I was working on something. I was wanting to do some excerpts from the show, but then I was having trouble with my software, mainly because I have been fooling with my computer again, and that is something I shall never do. I should never be doing that.
Yeah. By the way, what I do in my spare time, I speaking of my daughter, we had a funny conversation in the car. This is going to be it's the non-wrestling commentary section of the show. I'm going to tell you something embarrassing about myself. Friend of mine told me to try out this show on Netflix called Outer Banks. So I watched season 1. By the way, this was during the pandemic, so that's all you could do, right? Was sit around and watch stuff on streaming services. Season 2 comes out. Season 1 was a little out there. I was like, all right. So I watched season 2. Really got kind of far-fetched at that point. But you know how I am about finishing and completing things.
Yes.
So season 3 came out, and I'm like, all right, I already know. And Caitlin even says to me, it's pretty far-fetched. At this point, it's not even realistic.
And this is from a man with comic books all behind him.
And I said, all right, but you got to finish it. You got to see how this ends. So yesterday I completed season 3. Watch it. As far-fetched and as out there, I just was like, you ever have one that shows it's so, you don't want to say it's so bad that it's good, but it's so bad that at moments me and my wife are looking at each other making jokes about it.
Oh, wow.
And yet, I finished it.
See, you watch TV with your wife. I do not engage in any such activity.
That's because I run that remote control.
I admire you and your control over the remote. That does not happen at my house. Of course, I love this basement more than any other place on earth. It is quite covered. I have this heating pad that it puts negative ions into my back, and that removes all of the negativity and makes me so much more positive as I sit here and watch all of I'm watching Andor right now, by the way.
That's the next one I need to pick up because I have not watched it yet.
I'm enjoying that. Have you been watching The Mandalorian?
I am up to date on Mandalorian, so you should be watching that. By the way, as we make comments about some of these shows, Last of Us, Mandalorian, on and on and on, check out our friends over at Evolved Review. I share some of their stuff from time to time on our YouTube channel, Collaboration Together. They do a lot of reviews for that kind of stuff. By the way, and another reason, look, between them and, MB Mooney, by the way, congrats on the book, MB Mooney.
Yes. Another book you got published?
Yep. Sharing that kind of stuff, that's another reason why you should be on our YouTube channel if you're not. sharing reviews and lists and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, go back.
We have quality content even if we don't do it ourselves.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of which, from time to time, before we get out of here, we're really going to get up against the wall here. But I do wanted to slide in here, man. Dude, how, I thought of when we were talking about collaborations, Lewis, Alliance Pro Wrestling that was doing some stuff or whatever, made me think of Impact. This is how Nick's brain works. And then I was like, oh, shit, they had their thing. Well, hopefully I'll share a review he does for the Sacrifice pay-per-view. But, man, how much of a bummer was it that Josh Alexander is hurt and that's why he has to relinquish the title? I thought he was doing a phenomenal job as their champion.
I admire that guy. He's one of my favorites. I admire anything Impact does. I wish I had more time to watch it. I'm interested in that tour and I know it's not Impact. Camille Jordan Grace and Deonna Purrazzo did apparently of Mexico to find out what that was about. That looked cool, especially they all had on that matching gear. But Impact is doing such good work right now, and they don't get the credit they deserve. They do not get the credit they deserve.
I agree.
For consistently turning out content and having wrestlers in such hard times when everybody else is sucking up talent, and it's just amazing. AEW signed everybody, but Impact has still got a great roster and doing great work.
Yeah, I agree. Well, brother, that's it. I know we could go on and on and on, but that's all I've got for this week. You got anything else?
Find what you like and enjoy it, people. Just don't send me any videos like that we discussed earlier.
Yeah, but well, man, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
Time to tap out.